Welcome to Kids Health Revolution Radio with Deborah Morgan. On our show, we'll discuss natural and alternative health approaches to help children who have chronic health concerns. You'll hear from professional health experts and fellow parents who have used these proven methods to improve the health of their children, and you can too. If you have questions or topics you would like covered on the show, please send an email to Deborah@kidshealthrevolution.com. And now, here's Deborah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Kids Health Revolution. We are back again today with another great show to provide you with all of the inspiration you need, information that's vital, and of course the tools that you need to put into practice every day so that you can make real changes for your child's health. And today really, I would say, falls into the tool category, even more than maybe sometimes some of the other shows we've done. And I really love what my guests today are doing. I'm joined today by Serenity and Joe, and I stumbled upon these guys while I was reading a newsletter from one of my favorite health gurus, Rob Wolf, and I thought that it really looks like they're up to something pretty fantastic. What they're doing is really real food for babies. And I wanted to hear more about this story and what they're doing, and Serenity and Joe. And what I decided to do, instead of just chatting with them, was to have them on the show and share this conversation with you so you can find out more about what is, I think, a fantastic product in the market, and then find out how to get your hands on some as well. So I'd like to welcome both of you, Serenity and Joe, to Kids Health Revolution.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for making the time. So usually with lots of my guests, I do the whole formal bio thing, but I think your guys' story is so cool and so personal. I'd really like to just have you share that story. I think it'll be a lot more just coming from you guys than me reading it. So tell me about what you're doing and where it came from and how you got into it.
Yeah, so I'll start out. So what we're doing, well, let me back up a little, actually.
Yeah.
So I was born early, and I had a lot of immune issues when I was little, and was on a whole lot of antibiotics. My first round was when I was 2 weeks old for an ear infection.
Wow.
And it just kept repeating, over and over again, multiple times a year. Mm-hmm. And as you can imagine, all of that antibiotic really hurt my stomach and my gut health. And so I had a lot of pain as a child. I remember, just having stomach pain almost constantly, at least every day or every couple of days. And my mom didn't know what to do, Mm-hmm. And we didn't know at the time that I was intolerant to wheat and dairy, and now I do. Right. So when I was a teenager, I started experimenting with drugs like all teenagers, but mine were the less exciting kind. It was antacids and antidiarrheals and all of these stomach things that were over the counter because I was desperate. My pain was real, and the doctors couldn't figure out, what was wrong with me. They said, nothing's wrong with you. And I didn't want to live that way. And so fast forward, 20 years after that, in 2010, I had another ear infection, and I was on another round of antibiotics, and my stomach pain got just terrible. It got so bad that I couldn't eat anything or even drink water without a fire, like lighting up in my belly.
Oh my goodness.
And so I went to the doctor, and she said, here, take this proton pump inhibitor, every day for 2 weeks, and then come back. And so my stomach felt better. I went back in 2 weeks. I'm like, thanks, doc. This is great. See you later. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, wait. Let me write you a refill.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, how long do I have to take this stuff? And she said, every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah, which ironically, it's not even approved for, right?
I know, right? And I'm actually thankful she said it so dramatically and scary like that, because I was like, crap, I'm only 33 years old. I don't want to take medicine every day for the rest of my life.
Right.
What's she talking about, So my dad's a shrink, so I called him up. I'm like, Dad, I don't know what to do. I can't eat. And he said, you should probably read the book I gave you last year for Christmas. The one on the paleo diet.
Ah.
And I'm like, oh, another dumb dad book, right? I hadn't read it. I didn't even know what it was about. My dad had been paleo for about a year, and I thought it was the dumbest thing I had ever heard at the time.
Oh, funny.
Like, eat like a caveman, really dad, he's like a health kick kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so, but I read it, and the introduction to Rob Wolf's book changed my whole life. It just made sense to me. So I started going paleo, and my stomach healed. I no longer have to take that medicine anymore. And then after a career in corporate America, I decided to quit my job and start teaching other people how to heal their bodies with food and nutrition and, some supplements instead of, modern drugs or modern healthcare.
Yeah.
And then I was giving a speech on the paleo diet, and that's where I met Joe.
So I have high functioning autism and was undiagnosed as a kid. They called it Asperger's at the time. They didn't know much about it when I was a kid, so they just thought I was ADHD, and those drugs never helped. I was a very intense, very loud, spirited kid, and had a lot of social issues. I just kind of took over any space I was in, and so kids and adults alike didn't like me much. So I had a lot of exclusion and trauma as a kid from the school system and from bullying and punished all the time and so forth. And also had a lot of digestive issues. The anxiety, that I had was really high, and so my stomach hurt all the time.
Right.
And I've also, autism has food sensitivity. It's a very, be sensitive to foods, but we didn't know anything about that. So I lived mostly off of canned ravioli was like my favorite thing to eat, which is, gluten and sugar.
Yeah. That used to be my favorite thing too.
Oh, wow. And so, that was, so I had lots of stomach issues and social issues. And then in middle school, a popular girl decided to take me under her wing and teach me social skills. She just saw something in me. Instead of being mean to me, she chose to help me get better. And it was basically turned me into an early human optimizer. I realized, whoa, I can make myself better. I can take feedback. I can learn. I can choose behavior and resources and tools that help me be a better person. I'm not resigned to be this way I am. So I got on this personal growth track. That led to social justice work, eventually led to not only can I make myself better, but I can make the world better. And really, I have to make the world better in order to be happy, that my happiness and fulfillment is going to come from doing what's right and standing for what I believe in.
Awesome.
And so that led me to passion for children, because as I was looking at my past and my experience, I was like, wow, some of the biggest injustice in the world is being perpetrated against kids. Their rights are taken away. They are, punished, some often violently punished, controlled. They don't have a lot of choice. The school system is, extremely rigorous and not designed for the natural instincts of a child.
Right.
And so I began a career in youth work and started my own nonprofit youth program. And I'm just really passionate about kids and children. And then also work with adults on personal growth. I became a life coach and work with adults, including other adults with autism.
Great.
Help people really maximize their autism. I'm an autism optimist. Optimizer. Optimizer, yeah. So I'm how we get the best out of our autism and help other adults with that. And I was working with a personal growth group in Austin where we were bringing in speakers who were, doing related work. And we actually, my boss shared an acupuncturist with Serenity. And my boss was like, we need speakers to our acupuncture. She's like, okay, I'll look for that. And then Serenity was on the table next. I was like, I'm looking to speak. And so,
oh, wow.
So she brought her in, and I was her handler, and I learned about the paleo diet. I basically saw her talk and fell in love with the paleo diet and fell in love with her at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And became paleo, and so many of my health issues have improved. My gut problems are gone. I used to burp consistently. I used to burp 100 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't burp anymore. And I was, my anxieties, my whole system is calmer. My whole, and I started, working out and lifting weights and feel a lot more in my body, a lot more powerful, a lot more in my animal. And that leads us to the Paleo FX conference in Austin a little over a year ago.
Yeah, so I used to work for Paleo FX here in Austin. We're lucky because we have the world's largest paleo conference here.
Yeah.
And so I get to meet, all of my heroes and other like-minded people. And it's just like Christmas Day, 3 days in a row for me. I love it every year. Mm-hmm. And so we were there in 2016, and I speak every year usually. And so I was speaking and Joe was volunteering, and we were kind of taking some time to go look around the floor. And we started talking about our future and about starting a family someday. And I started getting kind of like fuzzy and maternal. And I said, let's go find the baby stuff.
Uh-huh.
And we looked and we looked and we looked nothing. And didn't find anything. And there was nothing. I was really surprised, and I went up to the CEO of Paleo FX, Michelle Norris, and I said, hey, Michelle, where's the baby stuff? And she said, I ask myself that same question every single year.
Hmm.
And so I was like, let's do it. Like we both were coaching, which is, like hour for hour time wise, it's, limited how many people we can reach. And, I had read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week and was like looking for, a way to impact the world and make more money without as much constant time and struggle.
Stress, yeah.
Yeah. And so his product model was really inspiring to me because it's like with a product, you can really reach a lot of people really quickly. Mm-hmm. And you need a gap. You need a place where there's a market gap, right? So I saw this market gap with the lack of paleo baby food. And we're like, hey, we could make a little niche paleo product that we'd sell to the paleo community, and we'd be like the paleo baby people. Mm-hmm. And we'd have a lot of food for our future kid. Mm-hmm. So then we started looking into, what other baby foods out there and what babies really need to be healthy. And we're super alarmed at how much sugar is in pretty much all commercial baby food. Right. We did a study of 250 organic baby foods, basically all the leading healthiest baby foods we could find. Right. And, 80% of them had 5 grams or more of sugar, which doesn't sound like that much. But for a 15-pound baby, multiplied to a 150-pound adult, that's 50 grams of sugar for an adult, which is, an 18-ounce Coca-Cola.
Wow.
And so it's like, wow, that's a lot of sugar, just 5 grams. More alarming than that was 65% had 10 grams of sugar per pouch. And, and so just, and none of them had meat, like less than 4% had meat. Yep. And less than 1% had more than 2 grams of fat. Exactly. There's like no fat. And like, babies need 30 grams of fat a day, we found out. We're like, well, babies need a lot of fat. And there's just no commercial baby food options for fat. And so, unless people are making their own food using meat or lots of oil, most babies are probably not getting enough fat. And so, especially moms who can't continue breastfeeding when they move to foods, basically not getting any fat. And that's really scary given how important fat is. So it became way bigger than just a little niche paleo product. It was like, whoa, we need to change the industry. We need to educate parents. We need to, challenge this idea that, it's not profitable. It's not possible to feed meat and high fat baby foods to babies. And got on it and started creating some recipes.
Awesome. And so where did you guys find out about, true good nutrition for babies? What was your inspiration?
Yeah, so I'm the nerd of the group. And after Joe said, I think we need to do the baby food idea, I'm like, what? Are you kidding? Really? Then I just spent all last summer with my nose in a book or on the computer. And where I started was with my health mentors. Conveniently, several of them had had babies in the last few years. Rob Wolf being one of them.
Right.
And, so I read their blog posts and I noticed a similar trend that, they wanted to give their babies the best of everything all the time. And due to modernity and our different focus, we don't just focus on our kids. We have a lot of other focuses in our lives. And each one of them made some kind of a sacrifice, big, little, whatever, but a little bit of a sacrifice in nutrition for convenience.
Right.
And so that's something that I noticed, and that's kind of helped us figure out that it was a viable product. But then what I did was, you can't just Google what's the best food for babies, because all of that crappy standard American diet stuff comes up.
Exactly.
And so I spent a lot of time trying to sort the wheat from the chaff, and, keeping track of the thought leaders. So Chris Kresser has a Healthy Baby Code program. Yes. Online that you can take. And so I took that one. And then I noticed a similarity, kind of a similar thread with that work. And then the Weston A. Price infant, I forget the exact name, Nourishing Traditions of Infant and Child Care, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I read that book, and that was really eye-opening, very kind of extreme, but it really made good sense.
Doesn't it? Yeah. And when we look at how other cultures are doing it compared to us, right?
Totally. And then I just kept reading. I read Pete Evans's book, The Paleo, or Baby Mum, The Paleo Way Guy. And I read a few other I read Real Food for Babies. And then just kept going with the Paleo Mom. She has a lot of information out there, and kind of started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And one of the books I also read was the FDA's Infant Feeding and Nutrition Guide that they use for the WIC program, the Women with Infant Children.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, let me get a balanced, or sort of more balanced perspective. What do they actually think? And I was actually surprised to find out they agreed with a lot of the things that I had read from the more fringe, natural foodies. That they talked a lot about the dangers of a purely vegetarian diet. They talked a lot about the dangers of drinking fruit juice. And they talked about the importance of fat and the importance of protein. And so that was all in there, and it seemed accurate. And I was I was shocked, and actually I got really angry that that commercially those foods that all babies need to eat are just not available. And it's that anger that really gave me fuel for this project, right? This is a lot more work than we thought it would be. And but realizing that, like, when I was a baby, I was not eating the foods that babies need to be eating, because my mom didn't know.
Of course.
She had no idea. And so, babies are not, they don't get to choose what goes in their bodies. And it's the parents that do. And I started just getting really sad for babies, and really wanted to make a difference there.
That's awesome. So lots of research and lots of education that went into it. Love it. There's something that you mentioned in there, that even some of the mainstream nutritional information isn't so far off of the more alternative nutrition, like the Weston Price and the paleo side, and what we see as fundamental nutrition for kids. Why is it that, if their recommendations aren't that far off, why is it that the baby food that's being produced is such terrible quality?
So I'm also reading a book called Inventing Baby Food, which is this country's history of baby food starting in the late 1800s.
Oh.
And the baby food market hasn't always been this bad.
Okay.
In the 50s and 60s, when processed baby foods were kind of becoming more and more popular with the baby boom, obviously, they were making lots of high-fat, liver and bone broth for babies, and all kinds of really healthy things. And then in the 70s, they had this. In the 70s, people started realizing that the processing methods weren't always super clean. They were finding lead paint on the inside of baby food cans. They were made in cans at the time.
Right.
And it really spawned a homemade baby food movement. That homemade baby food is better than processed, which Joe and I also believe. Fresh homemade baby food is the healthiest thing you can give your baby besides breast milk. And so it's a matter of the baby food industry also from a cost perspective, right? Making our product is way more expensive than making applesauce.
Yeah.
Which is basically what most other baby foods, that's the main ingredient in a lot of the other baby foods we found. And, right now, it seems that the baby food industry doesn't believe that it would be a profitable thing for them to do this. And so, it takes two crazy entrepreneurs like us to kind of get out there and take that risk in the name of really saving babies and helping the health of our entire country.
Yes. I think there was also some fear that babies won't eat it. Like breast milk, it tastes kind of sweet when you taste it.
Right.
It's mostly fat, but the rest of it is carbs, so it tastes kind of sweet. So I think maybe they and we worried that too. We were like, will they eat a high fat, meat-based baby food? And so we convened a baby test group and made about 10 different recipes and tried it on a bunch of different babies in Austin and parents. So we had the parents taste it and the babies taste it.
Perfect.
We got a lot of feedback on all our different recipes. And they loved it. I mean, there really were very few that they didn't like. They didn't like the beef and broccoli, for instance. It was a little too bitter.
Yeah.
But most of the others they ate, like they at least tried it and ate them, and some were big winners. So the ones that were like the most popular were the ones that we ended up formulating. We only used the ingredients that we knew were good for babies to begin with, and so it was just a matter of what combinations
were working best.
Yeah, we came up with those. Yeah.
Perfect. Great way to do it. So let's talk a little bit then about the products and, what goes into them and the quality of the product and all of that good stuff.
Totally. Well, the first thing we looked at was the meat, because that was the thing that is missing from baby food and the thing that's the most nutrient dense in terms of protein and fat. And we knew already that grass-fed and pasture-raised meats were superior fats. The omega-3s are higher, that the CLAs are higher, that the overall vitamin content is richer. So we knew we wanted to use that. But also my mom grew up on a family farm in Missouri. And so I grew up, visiting my grandparents' farm and seeing all the animals and hearing their struggles of how hard it is to as a family farmer. So
yes.
I got really excited about, getting pasture-raised animals from small family farmers so that we could support these farmers who are doing farming right. That it turns out the meat that the meat that's the healthiest for the baby is also the happiest animals, the healthiest for the animals, the most sustainable for the farmer and for the planet. Right. And so it was just like an all around good thing to buy this really awesome meat. So we got connected with this farming co-op in Missouri that is working with all farmers who are doing exclusively pasture raised. So no confinement, no grain, all hormone antibiotic free, no GMO feed or any kind of GMOs at any point in the process. So they're just like doing it super clean, super right, and worked with them to get it processed in the way we needed for the baby food. So we worked out that hurdle. And then we found organic vegetable purees that are grown in California and Oregon. And so we found a couple different puree companies that, grow these, that are really proud of they're all American grown vegetable purees and very fresh. They're like grown and pureed and then frozen. So it's like very, there's minimal processing. Yeah, and then it goes to us and we mix at our manufacturer mixes the vegetable puree with the pasture-raised meat to make our recipes, and then put it in a pouch. And we chose the squeeze pouch, because it's really the industry standard at this point. Everybody, the jars are really a thing of the past. There's a lot of reasons the pouch is much more convenient for parents. The kid can feed themselves with it at some point. They don't break. If the kid throws it on the floor, it doesn't break. It's easy to carry in the diaper bag. It's lightweight. It's easy to dispose of. And so, it's really like, it is plastic. So, we don't like that it's plastic. And the idea is that our food is a supplement to breast milk and homemade food. And so we wouldn't recommend anybody feed them exclusively our food.
Okay.
But they could, if they needed to. Like the nutrient balance is such that if they were unable to breastfeed and they're unable to make their own food, if baby fed this just our food, they would get what they needed.
Right. And as you say, with the industry's standard, you don't love that there's the plastic in the packaging, but if a parent is looking on the shelf at buying a pouch of the standard baby food versus a pouch of your baby food, they're going to be way better off getting this because at least they're getting the nutrient density.
Yeah, exactly. And we're happy to put it in jars if people will buy it. We'd love to package it in glass. And like at this point, there's almost no market for glass baby food anymore. So if enough people say we want it in glass, we want a spoon feed, we will totally make it and send it to them in glass. So
Perfect.
It's just a matter of getting big enough and enough demand.
Right on. So I know you said that the meat is all grass-fed and GMO-free and antibiotic-free, and the vegetables are organic. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. And is it certified organic and non-GMO?
The vegetables are certified organic and non-GMO. The meat is not certified organic or non-GMO because the process is so difficult
tricky
for these small family farmers. And it's like the more right you do it, the harder it is, because the more pasture you use, the more land has to be certified.
Right.
And the right way to pasture graze is to rotate a lot and to use a lot of different places so you don't overgraze any one area. So we went with, so that it is organic technically,
Yes.
they don't use any chemicals, and it's really better than organic, in terms of a lot of the organic meat is, organic grain fed to animals in pens.
Exactly.
So like, is much better than that. And we decided it was, it was worth it to tell the story of the farmers.
Absolutely. And I think that that's such a great point where, I think consumers can be lulled into a certain sense of complacency when they see some of these labels like certified organic. And eggs are a great example. They think because they're picking certified organic eggs, we think these are good quality, but we don't realize that the organic industry is a huge industry. And just because there's that certification doesn't necessarily mean that they're using those sustainable practices, that they're using the humane practices, and that they're actually using the healthiest possible practices. So knowing your farmer, just like you guys have gone out and really gotten to know the people that are supplying your meat, I think is really an important message for people to get. So quality's there, taste is there from what you're saying. Let's talk about the sugar. Sugar is a thing that we don't want to have in high amounts in anybody's diet, and especially starting out with our kids. What's the sugar content of your guys' product, again, compared to the industry standard?
Yeah, so that was when we were creating the formulas, it was based on taste and nutrition. Those were two of our big things. And so we wanted to make sure that none of our flavors had more than 3 grams of sugar.
Okay.
And so our beef and our chicken have 3 grams of sugar, and then our uncured bacon has only 2 grams of sugar. So it's our lowest carb product. We have some ketogenic friends who are like, oh, it's only 2 net carbs, I could eat that. They get really excited about it. And all of the sugar comes from the veggies that are inside. So the beef one, we mix with organic sweet potato and organic kale. And so the sugar comes from the sweet potato there. And then for our uncured bacon flavor, we mix that with organic butternut squash and organic kale.
Okay.
And then for our chicken flavor, we mix that with organic green peas and organic carrots. And so the sweetness comes from both the peas and the carrots in that flavor.
Perfect. So you're not adding any sugar or fructose or anything at all?
No. We do add a little bit of salt to the beef one and the chicken one. Okay. We've learned that was a big a big question for us during my nerdy summer last summer. I did a ton of sodium research, and I really got the most information from both Weston A. Price and then the USDA's infant feeding guide. And basically the infant feeding guide gives a sodium minimum, no maximum. And it really makes sense. Like humans, like all animals, most animals, need some sodium to actually survive. Our body is mostly saline. And so it gives a 200 milligrams per day minimum amount for an infant of about 6 to 9 months. And so we decided strategically to choose a tiny bit of sodium for those flavors so that it not only makes them palatable, but it also we decided to use pink Himalayan salt.
Right.
And so it gives not only sodium, but a variety of other minerals that are really helpful for development.
Right on. Yeah. All those little enzymatic processes that are going on that depend on those microminerals. That's awesome. So it's just not table salt. You're actually using really good quality salt in there too. It's adding a benefit, not just taste.
Exactly.
Perfect. Love it. So what's the future hold for you guys? You've got a couple products out. You're selling just in the United States of America at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, we launch in August, and the plan is to launch on Amazon at a handful of grocery stores that will all be in the U.S. We're looking into international, sales and how that works with Amazon, and we have a couple different markets we've been approached by internationally. So we are looking there already because people want it all over the world.
Yeah, we need it. We're in Canada. I'm in Canada, and we need it. So please get it to us.
We will.
Awesome. So a couple products, you're going to launch them, and then what are your thoughts? Are you going to expand the product line, or are you going to coast with what you've got for a while?
Yeah, so no, we're not going to coast. We are definitely expanding. I'm already working on our next few flavors. Okay. We're probably planning to expand the meat line with a variety of different meat sources. And then I have some ideas for different, high fat products. So that's really kind of our value proposition to customers, is that we can be the high fat option. And so we've talked a lot about, from a strategic perspective, we would like our product line to grow with our customers, meaning our eaters. So the little babies, the babies that are, 6 to 12 months old now, next year, we want to have some more toddler friendly kinds of options, and then possibly move into some kid options. I've already got tons of ideas about how to healthify, like traditional kid food that's out there. Kind of like what we did, right? We took the squeeze pouch, and so it looks pretty similar to the things that are on the aisle and similar to what parents are giving their kids, but what's inside is very different.
Right on. And I even see kids my son's age, like 8-year-olds, with those squeeze pouches with like their junky things in them. But the kids are used to seeing that kind of thing. So I think if you came out with something that was tasty and nutrient dense, that you definitely have a market for that for sure, and some happy parents.
Yeah, right.
One of the things that we didn't talk about, and just as you mentioned it, it made me realize we talked about the sugar and where the sugar comes from in the food. What about the fat? What's the source of fat that's in the products that you have presently?
Yeah, so the fat overwhelmingly comes from the pasture-raised meat. So the uncured bacon products, our highest fat product,
right?
It's 8 grams of fat in the pouch and 4 grams of protein, and that's all from the bacon and pork. We do a bacon pork blend. Because just bacon was extremely high fat, and also high sodium. So we mix some pork in there to balance out the sodium and add a little bit of protein. And then the grass-fed beef product, it's 5 grams of fat and 5 grams of protein, and that's all from the beef. We just get a high fatty cuts of beef. Perfect. Which turns out they're happy to give us. The fat is not as much in demand.
It's less in demand, yeah.
Yeah. So we have no problem getting high fat cuts of meat. And then the chicken, we use free range chicken thighs, which are basically the fattiest meat on the chicken. It still wasn't quite high enough fat for us, and so to get it up to the 5 grams of fat minimum we wanted, we add some avocado oil into that, organic avocado oil. To increase the fat content there.
Sounds great. And let's just for listeners, a couple of times you've said the uncured bacon product. So I just would like you to let listeners know, why uncured bacon, why that's important.
Yeah. So bacon is pork belly that is cured. It's kind of like the lowest quality part of the pig. And so poor people essentially learn how to use the lower quality meat and improve it by curing it with salt and smoke, similar to pork ribs or beef ribs. And so bacon's actually, one of those products that's now a delicacy that was essentially created out of necessity by poor people.
Right.
And so there's different ways to cure it. The main industry standard way of curing bacon is to add chemicals, is to use nitrate and nitrite chemicals and sugar and smoke to quickly and cheaply cure it and make the bacon taste and flavor. We didn't want any of that for babies. We didn't want the sugar, we didn't want the nitrates, we didn't want the nitrites. And so the USDA mandates that any bacon that doesn't contain those chemicals is called uncured. So it is cured. It's cured with smoke and it's cured with salt, and that makes the tasty bacon product that we know.
Flavor, yeah.
But it means that it does not have any nitrates, nitrites, or sugar. And so we would rather just call it bacon, but they wanted to call us to specify it's uncured, and we're happy to do that to let parents know that they're not getting any of the chemicals in the bacon that is in a lot of other bacons.
That's awesome, and I think it is an important distinction. For me, I won't buy bacon unless I know it's uncured. So for sure, knowing that is important for me. So yeah. Awesome. So, at the very beginning, I'm going to kind of circle back a little bit here if we can. At the beginning, we talked a little bit about, some of the people that have inspired you and some of the books that you've done, read, and the research that you've done into the more, I don't know if I want to say alternative, but, the different approach versus the standard American diet way of raising children. And I know that there's a lot of controversy out there in terms of raising a child paleo. Now, let me just lay the foundation for this for you here. My son has been paleo since he was 2 because of an autoimmune condition that he has that we've been treating successfully. So I absolutely preach to parents that we can get more nutrient density into our kids eating this way than we can the standard American diet way, but I always love to hear other people's opinions and ways of looking at it. So maybe you guys could chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally. When we shopped the idea for our product around, a month after we had the idea, and we started talking to people, and they said, "Why would you put babies on a diet?"
Right.
They freaked out. And I'm like, oh, goodness, they're not understanding what we mean by paleo. Right. And so you're right. There's a lot of misunderstanding. I really think it's mostly misunderstanding that people think the paleo diet is for weight loss. Right. And that you're right. We use the exact same phrases that you did when asked about our food and our food philosophy. And it's really nutrient density. Chris Kresser taught me that in the paleo code. And it's really all about, feeding a baby is not every parent's favorite task. Right?
It's tough.
And it's tough. And, it's something that you want to do well, and you want the baby to sleep, and you want them, to not be grumpy, and all these, there's tons of stuff wrapped up in feeding. And so like our philosophy is, when you're able to get a spoonful in, you want that to contain the most possible nutrients for the baby.
Right on.
And so really that's what we talk about to our customers and to grocery stores and people that we're talking about buying our food. It's really about a philosophy of getting the most vitamins, minerals, and healthy things that are in the highly nutrient dense foods that are primarily the vegetables and then the healthy meats that we're going for here. There are some healthy fruits and things like that, but there's plenty of that on the market already. Right. And so we're really offering the alternative for them.
I think it's pretty easy to argue that, a sweet potato and a steak has a lot more nutrients and will fill you up a lot more than an apple and a banana. Like you were to just look at the foods next to each other. It's like, it's not really about that it's paleo, or that it's part of that fad or whatever. It's that, like, this is the real food that babies should be eating, and all humans,
we all should,
thrive by eating, And they have these really clear protein and fat minimums. And yet there's no sugar minimum. There's the recommended daily amount of sugar is 0. Like, there's no needed amount of sugar that you need. So fruit, has its place in our diet, and it's not an essential food. So like Serenity's saying, if every bite counts, it best be some meat and vegetables in there that they get.
Right. And I really believe that we train our children's taste buds from a very early age. And as you say, breast milk it's got a little bit of that sweet taste to it. But, if we can start introducing them to the flavors of meat and vegetables and, all of these different tastes, rather than only raising them purely on the sweet taste, I think we're doing them a much bigger favor as their palates start to develop as they grow up, right?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I became a sugar addict at, I'm sure, a very young age. I don't remember a time when I didn't crave candy.
Right.
My parents gave me my first allowance, so that I really think it was a clever trick on my dad's part. He would give me, a certain amount of money, and I think it's because that was the maximum amount of candy that I could buy.
Right.
I couldn't buy any more because I didn't have any more money. And so I remember from, being very young, the sweet taste. I mean, it is so easy to get addicted to that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And even, no matter how hard you try with your kids, as I said, my child's been eating a nutrient-dense paleo diet since he was 2, but he still has the sweet tooth. He would eat fruit all day long if I let him, right? So that's again where the boundary setting comes in the household, and that fruit is an okay snack here and there and a treat, but it's not what we fill our bellies on. We fill our bellies on our meals and meat and vegetables, and these other things are little treats here and there, but it's a balancing act still. It's interesting. And, I think one of the other myths that people get stuck on when they think about feeding their child in a paleo style is the low carb aspect. And, just from what you're saying about your products, they're not low carb. You're using, sweet potato or yam, as we call them in Canada, and butternut squash. So they're getting plenty of good quality carbohydrate that's got all that nutrient density in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we did, I forgot to mention that August here in Austin is Breast Milk Awareness Month. And so Joe and I visited the milk bank last year when we were coming up with our formulas, because what we really wanted to aim for was the macronutrients to be as close to breast milk as possible.
Beautiful.
And so really it's a whole bunch of carbs and a whole bunch of fat, and it's a lot less protein than I imagined.
Mm-hmm.
I just going into it didn't know a whole lot about baby nutrition at first, and I assumed they would need the same kinds of macros as adults, which isn't the case.
Right.
And so it's really about balancing that sort of, super high carb, super high fat, and then a moderate amount of protein.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've done.
Perfect. Love it. Love what you're doing, and love your future ideas. Please come up with some alternative to the ubiquitous Cheerio for toddlers.
It's on the list. Don't worry.
For sure.
Good.
Tuned.
Drives me crazy. So awesome. Well, of course, we need to let people know how they can buy your product once you've launched. So let's talk a little bit about that first.
Absolutely. So the easiest way is going to be on our website, myserenitykids.com, which will have all this information and more, and links to the Amazon. You can also just search for it on Amazon. but you can buy it through our website or on Amazon directly, and Amazon Prime, free shipping to your house. And additionally, we'd love to offer your listeners a 10% discount off their entire order.
Nice.
So if they, and it'll be in the show notes, but if you do type in Kids Health Rev as a promo code, you'll get 10% off your order.
Love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So if they are ordering on Amazon, would they be able to ship it to Canada?
We're looking into that. We don't know yet how that works.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know Amazon has some different, relationships with different countries and so forth. Sometimes they have their own Amazon in the country or not.
Yeah. We do have an Amazon.ca, but sometimes I'll order things from Amazon.com and I get away with it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Okay, great. And so just to let listeners know, I will put the link in the show notes, but the website again is myserenitykids.com. And the code is Kids Health Rev, and that's a 10% discount off your total order, which is awesome. And any other ways they can stay in touch with you? Are you on social media?
Yep, we're on Facebook, My Serenity Kids, Instagram, My Serenity Kids. We should also let parents know we have a free ebook that Serenity co-wrote with Dr. Sarah Ballantyne, the paleo model.
Great.
That is all about health nutrition. It's the infant nutrition quick start guide, and it's really all the research that Serenity did and all of Sarah Ballantyne's knowledge of it combined into a nice little easy to read ebook that just really it's a nutrient dense ebook. It's like information dense,
right?
And it even includes recipes for how to make your own baby food. Just like the foods we're making. Great. And you can get that for free on our website. Just on our main page, there's a little box that has it, and you put in your email and you get the free ebook.
Perfect. That sounds like a great resource. Well, I love it, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk. I think that you guys are great, and what you're up to is absolutely amazing. We need it, and we need more of it. And all your other stuff, your coaching and stuff that you're doing for people on the side is also great stuff. So keep it up, please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We really love the work you're doing too. Revolutionizing. It really is a revolution that needs to happen here. The system and all the is so broken. There's so much wrong with what the modern, what different doctors say and what the practice is, not just with feeding, but, I'm really passionate about changing the school system and the way we educate and the way we redirect behavior and, really creating more freedom and more intuitive approaches to feeding and raising our kids so that they get to be wild, passionate, creative, loving beings that they really were meant to be.
Yeah, they're real, true selves, right? Rather than drones of a system.
Right, exactly.
Right on. Yeah, we're on the same page. Beautiful. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining me, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Deborah.
Welcome, and thanks to everybody for tuning in today, and we will be back with another episode very soon.
Thank you for listening to Kids Health Revolution Radio. Before you go, take a minute to subscribe to the show and to become a free member of the Kids Health Revolution community. Lots of great people, information, and bonuses waiting for you at www.kidshealthrevolution.com. The information on this show is for information and educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, or otherwise replace medical advice.